We really, in this movie, wanted to see Magneto do something we've never seen before in the X-Men films, but we had seen quite often in the X-Men comic books. He has massive amounts of power, and we wanted to see an example of that. And early on, Avi and I were looking through comic books, and we found issues of the Ultimate X-Men in which Magneto takes Manhattan hostage. And one of the ways he does that is by bending all of the bridges and separating it from New Jersey and Staten Island, Long Island. And there were these great images, huge splash page images within the comics of bridges torn back and bridges moved off of their initial foundations. And we sent those images to the studio to say, look at it, wouldn't it be cool to see something like this? And the studio said, not only would it be cool to see something like this, we want to see this.
The visual effects on this movie are being led by John Bruno, who is a multiple Academy Award nominee and Academy Award winner. And one of the sequences we have is with the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco as Magneto attempts to get to Alcatraz. Not wanting to swim there and not wanting to get a boat with all of his mutant buddies to get there, he literally goes onto the Golden Gate Bridge and rips it from its moorings and flies it over to Alcatraz Island and plants it in place so that he can take over the island.
That was the first thing started back in April 2005. I hired a few guys, friends of mine, storyboard artists, and we just started drawing ideas and doing a lot of research. There was no art department at this point. Just, as I always used to say, scenes we'd like to see. You just sort of do a lot of drawings and you pin them up on the wall and you look for the shots. So you just sort of play with it. That's the fun part of being a visual effects supervisor, is this part where you can just sort of imagine and play, and you really don't, there's nothing really at stake. You're just sort of coming up with fun ideas. And when Brett finally came on, it's like, okay, I like this, can we do it? This is sort of our planning of areas we'd like to see pull apart. Over old Fort Ross here at Fort Point, all this will come down, come apart, but the bridge will separate at this point here. What you see here is the magnetic field that keeps the bridge as one piece, but what we're going to try to show is how any part can stick together. Like if you ever magnetized a row of paper clips, they all sort of stick together and hold each other up. Well, that's what this bridge is going to do, and then it's going to be moved and basically end up over near Pier 39 in San Francisco. We actually went through this process of measuring all the distances. The bridge is a little over a mile apart, and if you sort of take the map and if he drags the bridge over to here, you'll see that it fits perfectly. We had a 30-foot model that we did all our scene planning on, and then we had a 6-foot model that was easier for all of us to discuss where the bridge broke apart. I mean, it was just, there was lots of discussion as to where everything was. So the next step was doing a pre-visualization, an automatic, of which we actually see the shots in a very low resolution CG version, shots moving, and now you can see the story, and then you can actually do a hard budget on those things, and then it's like, well, we're gonna have to cut back on this. So it's sort of, it's an ebb and flow of cost at this point.
But I like him closer because then if not, you're wondering where these other guys are.
You know, my approach to visual effects was more of a practical approach where I was trying to make the visual effects more the background and the story and the characters were the foreground. So if, God forbid, we ran out of money, we had to show the movie with green screen everywhere, that you would still be able to follow the story and the characters, and that the visual effects were just there to enhance it. And my approach, the practical approach, which was using models, building a piece of the bridge in Vancouver so that the actors can actually walk on it, on a real bridge, even though it wasn't over the water, but they were on the bridge. So you didn't have to, they didn't have to stand in a green screen environment and I'll be like, okay, well, the bridge is moving this way now, everyone turn this way. I mean, you knew the north, south, east, west perspective. You knew exactly where you stood on the bridge itself.
And filming it, the bridge itself is a football field full of green screen with the bridge leading to it. And enormous, you could see it for miles in Vancouver.
And it was like a 90-foot wide section, which is a 1-to-1 section of the bridge, 250 feet long. That meant it would be an absolute replication of the Golden Gate Bridge. And we brought in some airport landing lights, runway lights, and lit this thing, and it was like daylight, except we shot the whole sequence at night in Vancouver. And at that point, it was raining most every night, and so we had a crane with a big cover that laid over the top of it, so we could shoot. And then we had to also line that full-size set by green screen because all the cabling and everything past that railing was CG.
It's an earthquake.
When you go, you get scared.
Right.
So then you're like, you're just looking out there, and then you turn back and you go.
Forward on the seat, maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Action on the cars.
Alex! What is that?
What is it?
Look! Go! Brent, I'm more scared. Say your line.
It's an earthquake.
Good. Got it.
Car. Checking.
Good job.
And then the backgrounds had to be shot at sunset, so you only had a half-hour window every night to get these plates. And then there was some helicopter photography done, some aerial views, shot at the height of the deck of the bridge as it moved across the bay. And the reason we didn't shoot at the bridge is because we weren't allowed to. You know, you can't close the traffic. There's a certain distance to the bridge you can get with an aircraft. You have to stay a quarter mile away. So, you know, we had to do it this way. We had to sort of build it completely in this virtual world. And then we had our miniature department out there who was making the miniature version of this.
Our job on this show is to basically build the Golden Gate Bridge in various forms and then wreck it.
This is always a very complex issue with size of a green screen. Obviously we don't have any real backgrounds here, so we're photographing against the green screen so the backgrounds can be dropped in later. Unfortunately, these things cost a lot of money, so we try to keep them as small as possible. Unfortunately, they always get larger than we had anticipated.
The bridge is 1/12 scale, and we chose that scale because it gave us a nice size to work with. And gave us as much detail as we could without getting to be a fairly huge piece. I mean, this is already almost 50 feet long.
Because this is a truss work, it's actually inherently strong, like the real bridge. We're actually following the construction of the real bridge. So the side bits are metal. They're actually hidden behind plastic pieces, and even those little X pieces those are wood, believe it or not. They've been etched with a laser.
It's a large piece and it can't weigh very much. So trying to build a lightweight structure that's strong enough to be suspended and then still be able to walk on so we can work on it, because it's almost 8 feet wide. Trying to get to the center of it, you know, and do all the detail work and stuff, you do have to be able to stand on it. So it's kind of this light but strong, but yet weak and fragile. But we built this one, and we built Fort Point, which is basically the entry to the bridge. And we built the lower section of one of the trusses so that we could collapse that. So it looks like the bridge is actually being torn away from its moorings. Well, today it's down to the scene where Magneto is standing up on the bridge and he's bringing it over to Alcatraz to free his buddies. So he brings it over to it, and we have a wall section over here that we're just going to drop the bridge onto.
When the sequence starts, it's sort of sundown, and this is the transition piece to the Alcatraz sequence, which is at night.
So this particular shot had to take place at exactly 7:22 p.m. just because we couldn't really afford to light the bridge in its entirety. So we were using the ambient daylight, but we couldn't have too much ambient daylight, so we had to wait to the very, very last and perfect time that worked for our camera speeds and the film stock and depth of field.
What's going to happen is we are going to roll the 3 cameras. We'll say speed. For 5 seconds, we're going to let it roll. I will then say ready and action. The effects guys will cut the cables and the bridge will come down.
I have a little bit of worry that it's not going to work, but I have a lot of confidence in these fellows.
There is glass in there, real glass, is why I don't want anybody in this area, because there'll be shards flying out.
I was just looking at the height that we have the back end of the bridge, and I'm just a little concerned of where that bridge is going to land.
And there is a chance, a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, that the tower might tip over. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right, folks, let's walk away. Walk away, guys. Make it safe. Okay, we're hot. No more walkies. We're hot. Hey. Ready and action! Cut! Everybody freeze! Everybody freeze!
That's pretty good. Normally we would have had sort of pyro explosions to blow dirt and debris out, but they're going to add that later because the idea is that it lands and collapses, dust flies, and as the dust clears, you see Magneto. Also, they're going to add the rest of the bridge digitally. So I'm really happy with the way it came out because, again, we had a great crew. What can I say? Phew!